If we were to use broad strokes to describe Dragon Ball, our first instinct is usually to describe the series as a work of enhanced martial arts, as while there's a ton of physical exchanges of punches and kicks, there's also flying people shooting at each other with lasers. But note that no one has ever really called Dragon Ball a magical fighter series, and perhaps that's because our main characters aren't really known for magical powers. But magic does exist in the Dragon Ball universe. While magic has always played a semi-prevalent role even early on in the story, the existence of Ki and its flashier moves have made magic a second-tier ability in the audience's eyes. Furthermore, the magic spells cast by its various users are rarely offensive in nature, usually falling in the buffs debuffs category if you allow the video game terms. Another thing hindering the popularity of magic is that there is often no visual or concrete way to measure it. As dumb as it sounds, the fact that Super Saiyan forms can be color-coded enables us to use them as reference points and makes the power scaling easily understandable. Furthermore, magic abilities do not factor in much to a person's power level and cannot be detected even by the likes of power scouters, so we don't have a concrete number. Of course, that isn't to say that magic users can't be powerful, as often the most dangerous magic users can mix and match with Ki powers and physical prowess. Additionally, magic can at times be even more dangerous than even the most dangerous of Ki blasts, and with creative applications can do things that even the mightiest muscles cannot. To say that there are many types of magic would be an understatement, and for the most part many individual mages have specific magics that they are proficient in and how they prefer to cast them. So I will put the various types of magic in separate categories and we'll talk about the varied ways they can be casted, their similar but slightly different effects, and its users. However, do note that magic in this universe is one of the least explored and, more importantly, least explained parts, so we'll need to do some light speculation and theorized connections, although I will make sure to make educated guesses using an appropriate amount of evidence. As one of the earliest magic shown in the series, as the name suggests, this magic allows one to change their bodies either in whole or in part. One's proficiency with this magic can be improved depending on talent and practice, as shown when comparing Oolong and Puar. More specifically, it seems that the quality of transformation and the duration of the transformation can also be improved. When we're talking about quality, this can swing greatly, especially when the shapeshifters are trying to copy someone. For example, when Oolong and Puar transform into Bulma and Kid Goku, respectively, the end results speak for themselves. Oolong's Bulma is very far from the real thing, both horizontally and vertically, with none of the features seeming correct other than the blue hair. Puar's Goku isn't perfect either, but substantially better, getting the proportions right, the hair is slightly off but not within the realms of possibility, and the dotted eyes. Later on in the series, Puar's copy abilities especially will become very near the real thing, as shown when she transformed into Beerus, with the only wrong detail being the eyes. There's actually a pretty good reason why these two in particular have transformation magic at their disposal. In fact, there's actually a shifting school out there called the Southern Transformation Kindergarten, which we can infer from its name that 1. They teach kids transformation magic, and 2. There are probably more than one such school. In Puar and Oolong's case, Puar was a successful graduate, while Oolong was kicked out due to behavioral issues, and we can attribute some level of their difference in abilities to that fact. In terms of limitations, shape-shifting magic really only allows the user to look physically like something. They don't really gain the power of who or what they turn into. When Oolong changed into a scary fighter, for example, all he could really do was bluff his way around, while when Puara turned into Beerus, she didn't suddenly become the god of destruction. Interestingly, while they don't gain the powers of what or who they turn into, they do gain some of the qualities. This was shown when Puar turned into a pair of giant scissors to cut off the tail of a rampaging great ape, meaning they do physically change their body's composition. A close cousin to shapeshifting magic, transformation magic looks to shapeshift something or someone else. If I recall correctly, the first example of this kind of magic being used was by small-time villain Monster Carrot, who had the ability to transform others into carrots through touching them with his hand. At the end of the encounter, we never really see a way to dispel this transformation, as Goku just ended up beating on him until he gave out and broke the spell himself. Other notable uses of transformation magic are the various Boo's ability to turn people into food products in the main series, and Dragon Ball GT's Oob, who could do the same due to being of the same family line, as well as GT's Monster of the Week Lud, who could turn people into dolls. There exists also two others who could change people in the form of the Burra's Stone Spit and Rildo's Metal Breath from Dragon Ball GT, who could turn others into stone and metal respectively. Although it can be argued whether these two specific abilities are the result of magic, at the end of the day, there's really never been any great explanation, so I'm just going to drop this in here. Let's talk a little bit about the specifics of transformation magic. On the one hand, we actually have never seen this kind of magic get dispelled other than by the original user, their death, or through the abilities of another person. The only instance I could think of an inflicted person getting out of it through their own abilities is when Piccolo was shattered after having been turned to stone and was able to use his innate and regenerative abilities to piece himself together. But in that sense, he didn't technically break the curse. In some rare cases, in the same way that a shapeshifter doesn't become stronger by changing into a strong person, a sufficiently powerful individual can actually retain their strength, like in the case of Vegito after getting hit by Boo's Candy Beam. Due to having the same amount of power held within a harder to counter package, Evil Boo ultimately decided to turn him back to human form. What is interesting to know, however, is that as powerful as Vegito was, even he couldn't directly break the transformation spell. Additionally, we also don't know what would have happened to Vegito would he have ultimately been split back into Goku and Vegeta while still being Candy. Other things we haven't seen is what would happen if a shapeshifter was hit by a transformation spell. If Puar or Oolong be transformed into Candy by Boo, for example, would they be able to shapeshift back into their base forms? The only supporting evidence pointing one way or another was during Dragon Ball GT, when Majin Oob had his chocolate Kamehameha reflected, turning him into chocolate, which once devoured, he was able to turn back into his original form. But this is an iffy argument either way, as the original spell was Oob's, and we've never seen the original user get affected by their usability. Finally, we've also seen transformation magic being mixed in with key attacks, with the aforementioned chocolate Kamehameha being an example, as its key blast with a sprinkling of chocolate magic, with it meaning that although the two power systems are separate, a person skilled enough with both is able to combine them. When it comes to dealing with a strong opponent, most of the time the method to overcome them is either through overpowering them or the second strategy, sealing. In Dragon Ball Story, one of the earliest examples, and my favorite sealing spell, is the Mafuba, or the Evil Containment Wave, which allows the user to capture an enemy and put them into a container with a special paper seal to lock them in for good. Many premises of various arcs or movies is based on the usage of a sealing spell where some ancient evil was put away for future generations to deal with. Examples of sealed characters include Piccolo in the Mafuba rice cooker, Old Kai in the Z-Sword, Majin Buu in some kind of cocoon, Garlic in the Dead Zone movie, and Bojack in the Bojack Unbound movie. Although on multiple occasions we've seen someone weaker be able to seal someone stronger, the energy required often exceeds the life energy of the person, and many end up sacrificing themselves to complete the ritual. Admittedly, it is somewhat hard at times to find the minute differences between magic and ki moves. Take some of the teleportation spells for example. Many of the Kais have an ability called Kai Kai, which can allow them to teleport anywhere. And you might be thinking, isn't that Goku's instant transmission? And that goes to show how similar they are. The difference is that instant transmission requires the user to pinpoint another's ki to teleport to, while Kai Kai doesn't. In other words, instant transmission teleports to a person, while Kai Kai teleports to a place. Teleportation magic isn't limited to divine beings either, as fortune teller Baba has also been seen using a variation to move between the mortal realm and the realm of the dead. Now this will be a rather hefty category, as I threw in a few that could fit the bill but vary greatly in application. It is commonly accepted that there is energy around the world of Dragon Ball. Using an analogy, a tree weak in energy would barely be hanging in there, probably being leafless and dainty, while a tree overflowing with energy would be massive and filled with leaves and life, much like the Tree of Might. As such, energy manipulation is the power to manipulate that energy within everything in the world, and we've seen a few variations of this technique. We've seen energy absorption, where energy gets sucked out of a place to another. Now, not all energy absorption is magically based, as Android 19 and 20 for example are also able to absorb energy, but that's tech-based. An example of magic-based energy absorption is Moro, who is the most dangerous among energy absorbers, even being able to use his power to increase his lifespan. We've also seen magic be used for the betterment of another's energy, like in the case of the Elder Namek Guru who unlocked the potential of Krillin and Gohan. In some sense, a lot of the healing magic can be seen as some variation of healing magic, as we often see the healer get exhausted to some degree, meaning they do impart some of their energy. To not waste too much of your time, let's quickfire some of the other magical spells shown throughout the series. Fortune telling may also fall within the realms of magic, as we've seen multiple people have been shown displaying some level of divination. Some of those with the ability to look into the future include Baba, most divine beings, and this funny fish. Mind control has also been shown to be magical in origin and played a prominent role in the early parts of the Boo saga through Babidi. The demon mark that he utilizes has also been seen to have variations of effects. In some cases, Babidi is able to command complete loyalty, such as in the case of Dabura, or to sway someone to the darker side like in Vegeta's situation. In both cases, however, Babidi was shown being able to unearth the individual's true potential in the same way that the Elder Guru did for Krillin and Gohan, which is why most of those affected by Babidi's mind control magic would end up becoming stronger. Telepathy, or the ability to speak to others' minds, is a convenient power that I personally tied to King Kai the most, as we've seen his ability to send messages to others from far away, and others around him can even transmit messages through him even from the afterlife. Telekinesis, or the ability to move objects with one's mind, is a strange one to categorize, as we've seen many use telekinesis ranging from regular humans, man-made androids, and renowned wizards. As such, it's probable that the same result can be achieved through different means, as even the likes of Goku and Piccolo can use telekinesis. On a lighter note, love magic also exists, but it is limited to the anime and again limited to Universe 2. Not too much is known about this kind of energy, and honestly I'm putting this here because the users of this kind of energy have to access a magical girl form, but we can infer that it is both an energy provided by a collective and based on some level of one's self-love. Finally, one of the most confusing magical powers is the ability to simply materialize items out of thin air. To be honest, I have little idea how to explain the process behind this power, as we've seen the likes of Piccolo being able to materialize a sword out of thin air to aid Kid Gohan in surviving the dangers of the wild, and we saw that the sword itself doesn't seem to disintegrate even after a significant amount of time seems to have passed. With the existence of magic in this world comes the objects that are imbued with magic. Some of them feel strictly like tools, like Goku's power pole, which can extend at command, Dende's lookout, which allows its residents to look down upon a planet, but also to move around at will. The Z-Sword is also technically a magical object, less so because of its rumored durability, but because it is used to seal the old Kai away. The Senzu beans may also fall into the category of a magical object, but there are also magical objects that have some semblance of sentience. The Flying Nimbus, for example, can be called upon and even be selective as to who can ride it, and by extension the Giant Nimbus Cloud could also fall in the same category. However, by far the most important magical item, or should I say items, are the titular Dragon Balls, who are ornaments when separated but are capable of summoning wish-granting dragons when a set of 7 is assembled. Although size isn't everything, in the case of Dragon Balls, the larger Dragon Balls have been seen to summon larger dragons, who in turn are able to grant more extravagant wishes, with the largest of these being Super Shenron's balls. Although key users often take the front stage in Dragon Ball, magic users also fill out the roster. In fact, throughout the video we talked about a lot of them in passing. Some notable ones include Oolong, Puar, Baba, many Namekians including Piccolo, Babidi, the entire Boo family line, the various Kais, the various divinities above the Kais, the wish-granting dragons, and in more recent times, Moro, who is speculated to be the most powerful magic-using mortal. Although it is true that magic users often have glaring weaknesses, as some specialize in one kind of magic, like in the case of Oolong and Puar, and others are physically weak like Baba or Babidi. Compound all of that with the fact that magic can be sealed away, like in Moro's case, it definitely could be risky to rely solely on magic. However, we've seen how magic can be an extremely powerful tool, and oftentimes some of the most dangerous and powerful individuals are able to mix and match magic with other powers like Ki. The Boos would have never been nearly as dangerous without magic, and similarly, Moro would have been a menace but not an overwhelming one. I hope you guys enjoyed this rarely explored part of Dragon Ball. There's always been a preference for key-based analysis, mainly because it's oftentimes more flashy, but magic is just as important, and perhaps even more important. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Have a nice one, dummies.